Hello and welcome to week 3 of our online co-rec. I'm going to go ahead and get into this week's assignments because we got a lot to cover and I don't want this video to be super long. So let's get started. Let me move this guy over here. Okay, we're going to come down here to our course content. I'm going to look at week 3. Now our assignment list is laid out for you. The first thing I want you to do is watch the video about Will She Make It? Surprise, it's about me. That's my story. And then I want you to read our personal narrative proposal, essay proposal. It's just a fancy way of saying instructions. Review the pre-writing example I gave you for the personal narrative pre-writing that you will be turning in this week. And then you're going to complete your pre-writing after you've looked at that sample in a Blackboard journal. Next, I want you to watch the instructional video on how to save a Word document. And then I want you to look at the outline for the personal narrative essay. And then you're going to create your own outline using the template that I give you. Remember to follow all the instructions so that you get full credit for these assignments. These are the first assignments that are going into your writing portfolio, which makes up 50% of your grade. So you want to follow it to the T so that you get the full credit and you start out with 100 in that writing portfolio. Okay, next, this week we're going to be actively reading Paul in our textbook. And this week we're going to be writing a reader response. I know you wrote a reader response last week about my story, but I want you to write a reader response now about Paul. And the instructions are a little different. In fact, they're very different. But the instructions for the reader responses from here on out, the reader responses that correlate to the chapters in our book, will be the same. So this week will be the same as every other week for the rest of the semester. But I need you to really read those instructions and carefully write your reader response in a Blackboard journal entry. Okay, so let's get out of here. Oh, and then this week we also have our first unit in Khan Academy, which is nouns. All right, let's get out of here and look what we have in our weekly folder. So here is your instructional video. You're already watching that. Here's the video that I'm explaining how Will She Make It? The student case study you watched last week is actually my story. So just take a minute to watch that. These are your essay instructions. So if we look at these, I'm going to open it up. If we look at our essay instructions, one thing I really want you to be aware of is this is what your essay is about. These are those, actually both of these paragraphs 2 and 3 are the instructions, right? It's got to be a Word document. It's got to be a, there's, depending on how many memories that you choose to use, that's how many paragraphs your essay will have. It should be in first person because it's your story. And then here in paragraph 4, I tell you the due dates for your rough draft and your final copy. Your rough draft is due next week. So how this works is week 1 of our first major essay this week, you will always do pre-writing and outline. Then week 2, you'll write and submit your rough draft. Week 3, we'll do some peer reviews, which we'll go over in week 3. And then week 4, you're going to submit that final copy. And this will be the pattern that we have for all of the major essays in our course. So all 3 major essays are a 4-week process, beginning with that pre-writing and outline, which is what we're doing this week. So rough draft is not due until next week. But to complete your pre-writing and outline, you got to know what your essay is about. So that's why I give you the instructions this week. Also remember, you will receive a 0 if. Make sure you read through these instructions carefully. I always have students who don't read through this and they turn the paper in late, or they use AI, or they plagiarize, or they wait too late in the day on Friday and their essay doesn't submit or upload by the time 12 p.m. or noon hits. So read through these because you will receive a 0. It's not you might receive a 0. you will receive a 0 if any of these things are not, if you do any of these bulleted points. Okay, so just make sure you read through this carefully. These are your instructions for our first essay. Okay, next, now I've given you a pre-writing example. You're actually going to submit here. It's a journal entry. I have all of the instructions listed here for you, and you'll just go through each one of these numbers and follow the instructions precisely. Yours will have a little place right here where you can start writing your journal entry. This is my side, and the teacher side looks a little different. But before you do that, I did give you a pre-writing example, and it just follows my story, Will She Make It? And this is what it should look like, what yours should look like in that journal entry. Okay. So we've done the pre-writing. This is a video on MLA formatting and how to save a document in Word. Make sure you watch this carefully. Word already has an MLA template ready for you. So all you need to do is click on that MLA template and then follow the same instructions to save your document in Word. Now, if you have a Mac, it might be a little different, and you might need to Google how to save a Word document in Mac, because I know you've got to export the document, and the steps are a little different. So if you have a MacBook, Google how to save a Word document in your MacBook, or you can always call IT and they can walk you through it as well. Here is an outline example. This is just one I filled out for you. Again, it's over Will She Make It, which is my story. It's loading. Notice I want your answers in a different font color. That makes it easier for me to see. You're going to use the example that I give you, this template for the outline. You're going to use the exact same one, and I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. But I give you an example, so it's not, you know how to do it. So hopefully it answers some of those questions. But if you still have questions, email me. So that is the example outline. Here is where you're going to submit the outline, and this is also where the template is. So here are your instructions, and then this is that personal narrative outline. So you can open this up. It'll be a Word document, so you'll have to have Word open, and you can copy and paste or just start using this document as it is. Remember that your answers should be in a different color font. Once you're ready, you're going to save this outline like you just learned how to do in that video we watched on how to save a Word document. You're going to save this outline and then submit it into this assignment, okay? And it says right here, submit here. So I try to make it pretty clear. This week, we're going to actively read Paul in our textbook. This is where you're going to submit that active reading. Remember, all of your scanned pages of your active reading, I need to be able to see them, and they need to be sent to me in one file, okay? So use your phone to scan those copies, and then you'll submit the one file of scanned pages for your active reading. You'll submit that scan or that file through your phone. You need to download that Blackboard app so that it's real easy just to upload the file from your phone in that Blackboard app. Here's a reader response. Remember I told you the reader response is a little different this week. So if we look at this reader response, paragraph 1 is a summary. Remember, do not label your paragraphs. You're just going to write 2 paragraphs, kind of like a 2-paragraph essay. The first paragraph is a summary. Basically, you're retelling me the story in your own words. Do not use the words from the book. That is plagiarizing, okay? You retell the story in your own words. And it needs to be a pretty detailed summary. I'll get students who will read the first page and the last page and write a summary just on those pages, and it's very obvious that you did not read the chapter. So writing this summary tells me, A, you understood what you were reading, and B, you read the entire chapter, and you're able to pull out those important pieces. What I tell students is take 1 or 2 important facts facts that happen for each page of the summary. So take maybe even 2 or 3. Like after you've done your active reading, you've already got everything there. You've already highlighted or underlined all the important things that happen on that page. So write 2 or 3 sentences for each page of the chapter, and that will give you a beautiful, full summary. But it does say that paragraph 1, the summary, needs to be 10 sentences minimum. Also, do not write your opinions, your experiences, and your thoughts. This is about the summary only, not your thoughts. That comes in the next paragraph. Paragraph 2. I'm looking for 3 things in paragraph 2. 1, I want to know if you like the story, why or why not. You will not be graded on whether or not you liked a story. There are some chapters in the book that I'm not real fond of. But whether you like it or whether you don't, make sure you explain to me why you like the chapter or why you don't. The second thing I'm looking for is a quote. At this point, I want you to implement a quote from the book. And the reason I do that is if you do continue on to 1302, or maybe in your science and history classes, you're going to have to cite information in different essays that you might write. I want you to know how to cite information using another author's words. So that's why I need you to use a quote from the book to back up some of your thoughts and feelings, so that you begin to have that research practice, right? That research writing practice. So first thing, do you like the chapter? Why or why not? Second, I want a quote properly cited in paragraph 2. And then the third thing is, I want you to tell me how you relate to the person you just read about. The reason I don't have you write a reader response about Maria is I got so many students saying, I don't relate to Maria because she's in a wheelchair and I'm not. That's so superficial. Maria went through so much: adoption, moving countries, being bullied, feeling insecure about moving different schools, finding determination to get through college even with a disability, or just having a disability in general. There are lots of ways that you can relate to a person, and frankly, you can relate to any human on some level. So I need to know how you relate to the person in the chapter. What do you have in common? And there's a reason I do this. Studies show that if you can relate to the content you're learning, you are going to remember and retain that information better. So there's a method behind my madness. Make sure in this paragraph you have you tell me if you like the chapter, why or why not. You have that quote with the right citation, and you tell me how you relate to the person in the story. Now, the ICE method is the citation method that we use. If we jump down here, this is a practice, or this is a good example of a reader response. I use the 3 Little Pigs, so it's not very long because that story is not very long. But I know that we all know the story of the 3 Little Pigs. But if you jump down here, here is my my example of a quote, an embedded quote. Now we use the ICE method, which means introduce that quotation, cite it correctly, and then explain. So see how I've introduced the quote? Then I put the quote in there using quotation marks, and the page number only goes in parentheses at the end of the sentence before that period. Now, if this is a little confusing, use this example as your guide. See how I do not have titles, summary, or opinions. Just write a 2-paragraph essay. No titles needed. If you are questioning on how to cite the quote from your book, this tells you exactly what to do. These are instructions and examples on how to cite your quotation. And then I also gave you a good example of a reader response and a bad example of a reader response. So you can look over that as well. And then last but not least, this week we are doing the nouns unit in Khan Academy. Make sure you read those instructions carefully. I will take your grade from the nouns unit test. Okay, I think that's it. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll see you guys later. Bye. Have a good week.